Hi everyone, welcome again to a new session. And today, congratulations, guys, you are now at the advanced module, and we are just few more videos to wrap up this 30 days challenge. I know it's some work, but I want to say kudos to you for coming along this far. Okay, so today we're going to try and tie up what we have done in intermediate module as well as the beginner module, and try to replicate exactly some of the complicated use case that the business would typically request. And so with that, let's quickly dive into it. And also, just to prepare your mind, this may be a little bit an extended video just so that we can be able to demonstrate all that we've learned in a very similar way that will be used in the industry. Okay, all right, so now let's quickly get to it. So use case here, operations and finance need a single monthly data set for 2024 that blends profitability and service performance. Specifically, they want total gross margin, which is going to be aggregated from line items using unit price and standard cost. Okay, on time, late, and not ship count using the ship date and due date and on time rate. And this enables monitoring OTIF, on time info, persevere, on time ship. This is a KPI for supply chain process, and merging trends together, identifying bottlenecks, late versus not ship, and trade-offs between service and profitability. Now, this is where your challenge is, right? So, deliver a monthly 2024 performance database data set with the following fields and guarantees. So, fields per month, it's going to be year, month, and total margin. We've shown you kind of how you kind of calculate it, and total orders, you should know that by now. Total on-time orders, total late orders, total not shipped orders, on-time rate, and also we have data contracts or definitions. And so we kind of just want to go over the definition here. So on time will be ship date is less than or equals to due date. Late will be ship date is greater than due date. Not shipped will be ship date is null. And gross margin, we already discussed that before. We also added the operationalization here. This one we won't cover, but just to kind of give you a perspective of how typically this would work. So basically, you need to schedule a daily refresh for the prior and current month, monthly full refresh for historical stability. So sometimes you might have to create a recurring workflow. Quality check, so you might need to do some quality check. I won't go through that. And delivery here, you might need to publish as a date certified data set for BI. It could be Power BI, you can use Tableau, and surface a 2024 margin and on-time dashboard. And then there are a few things you also need to do here: owners and routing, assign ops for timeliness, KPIs, finance for margin review, and data engineering for pipeline SLS. All of this is just to give you an idea of what a real solution or a typical end-to-end solution and continuous integration and monitoring will really look like. Okay, but we won't focus on that in this video. We just focus on our solution. All right, so so let's quickly get to it. Okay, so we understand what the challenge is, right? Obviously there are two main tables. We are focusing on orders for on time, late, and not shipped, and also for total gross margin we'll need our product, so using the order detail. Okay, those are the two tables we'll be using, and also for filtering we're going to be filtering for 2024. Okay, all right, so that's it. So let's quickly go to our solution. Okay, our solution here. So yeah, we're just gonna start with the order table. Okay, all right, now we understand the challenge. Let's quickly go to the solution. Yes, so we do know what we need. All right, we do know that definitely we need to access our order table. So we're going to put all of that in a CTE. Now we understand CTE, so we're going to say order underscore 2024. Okay, as, and then we're just going to so we already have start the CTE, so we're just going to say select star from our order table. So we're going to start with our order table. All right, we're going to run that. Oh, we need to specify select star from our city. All right, so let's quickly copy this. All right, paste it here. Okay. All right, beautiful, beautiful, guys. And then we need to start first of all, before we start selecting the columns that we need to be able to filter our data for 2024. Let's quickly do that. So we're going to say where extract. We've done this couple of times, so we should be familiar at this point. From order date, so we'll look at order date here, we'll pull it right here, equals to 2024. All right, now we run that, so we can say we have about 31,000 plus records. So let's run that. So we have 14,000 records, so that's great. Now let's focus on some of the transformation we need to complete here. So here we just need to pull our sales order ID, right? And then we also may be interested in our order dates. Okay, all right. And then we'll then start okay, we need to pull our year as well and the month. So I'm just going to copy this so it's easier. We'll copy exactly what we have here, and then we extract the year as year. All right, we paste replicate the same thing here as well, and then we'll do month as well. Okay, so months, and then from this we call it as month. As month. Okay, and then we also pull in the month name itself, and we know what we're going to use here. We're going to use to char, and then we're just going to drop in the order date here. All right, and then we're going to just pull the full name, so we're going to say full name, and then we're going to call that month name. Okay, all right, so that's great. And then here we're just gonna start we're gonna put the ship date as well as the due date. So let's do that, and then let's put the due date as well, and then we're just gonna, and let's run that first. Make sure that we select the right column. Beautiful. Now when we say on time order, meaning that this, we actually ship the day, we ship the item, the product, before the due date. So we need to write a case statement. So we'll say case, all right, when, and also we want to make sure that the ship date is not null, so that there won't be it can calculate correctly. So we're gonna say when ship date first of all, no, so let's do that again. When ship date is not null and ship date is less than or equals to, all right, due date. Okay, and then we'll now say if that is the case, then 1, right, else 0, and then we end it as on time order. Okay, so we're gonna indent it properly, and then we're gonna copy exactly what we have here, and we're gonna do the same thing for late orders. Okay, so let's do the same thing for late orders. So basically this is gonna be the same thing, and we're just gonna say when it's greater. Okay, that means it's a late order. Okay, so we'll say late order. Okay, and then we'll have the last one, which is not shipped at all. Okay, and then we'll just say when it's actually null, so we just remove all of these. When it's null is 1, then we'll say not shipped. Okay, all right, so let's just run this to double check our case statement is working correctly. So let's look at this. For example, you can say this date is before due date, so it's correct, and you can see this is working quite well, guys. So that is great. So that's what we're gonna start, and then we're gonna start looking at the margins CTE. Okay, we're gonna have to look at the margin CTE. Okay, So margins, and then we're going to say, all right, so for the margins, okay, we're going to have to access the sales order detail as well as the the product itself. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So we will say select star from order product detail. Okay, order product detail, right? And then okay, and then we'll call this dates, and then we'll say inner join to what we have for order 2024. Okay, and we can call this order, and then we just say that dot, and then we'll say sales order ID on, of course, and equals to or dot sales order ID, and then we will also add one more. Okay, we'll also add one more. We'll say inner join. So we'll do inner join to product. Okay, so we'll do product. Let's pull up the product table. So this is the product table, and P, and then we'll say on, and it's gonna be that dot product ID. No, product ID equals to P dot product ID. Okay, and then we just pull the exact columns that we need. In this case, we need the odd dot sales order ID. I'm just gonna copy this, paste it here, and also here we need the unit price, so it's gonna pull that from that, and then we say unit price. Where is that? Unit price, so we can see. And then we also need to pull the standard cost from product. You can see standard cost somewhere. Yes, standard cost here. Awesome. And then we just also gonna pull the order quantity. Okay, let's quickly pull that from its table, order quantity. Great, guys. And then we're just gonna switch over this to margins. All right, and so let's run that. Beautiful. You can see we have everything that we need. So now let's calculate our margin, right? So our margin is basically going to be unit price. This is the amount we sold that product, right? And the standard cost, which is the amount we bought the item. Okay, all right, and then we're going to call this the margin. Okay, remember this is at the product sold level. Okay, so you can see when you subtract this from this, you get this value, right? But then what about when we have more quantity? Like in this case, if you subtract this from this, you will get 36, but we have 3 items, so we need to take care of that as well. So for that purpose, we're gonna just have to multiply by other quantities. So we just say order quantity. You know what, we can leave this as margin, and then we'll just create another one for gross, and then we'll say order quantity. Okay, and we'll say multiply, and then we'll put all of this in bracket because we want all of this to be attended to. Okay, and we'll call this gross margin. Okay, so now when you run this, you should see for when you have more than, you can see, for example, here you have -9, then you multiply by 10, and this is what your gross looks like. Awesome, guys. And one more thing we just want to also take care of is what if this is null, right? It might not, calculation may not work as expected. Okay, so we want to make sure we take care of that. Okay, especially when you need to start considering, putting it in a workflow, right? Adding it to a workflow. So that's, you need to take care of it. So because of this, we're gonna add another bracket here, and then this will take care of that. Okay, so we can do the same thing for margin as well, but we won't care about margin for now because we are probably not going to use it, because all we are interested in the gross margin. Okay, now, having done all of this, one thing also we want to make sure, because here we are at the sales order detail level, right? So we also want to make sure that we filter, right, for 2024. Okay, so we're going to filter here for 2024. It shouldn't make much difference, but let's just do it. So let's run that again. Okay, let's see if it make much difference. 56,721. 56,721, you can see it doesn't make much difference, and the reason is because we did an inner join, so it's only going to pull the orders that are already filtered here. But it just for sanity, let's just keep it here. That's fine. Now we need to do one more, and then we would go from there. Okay, we need to do one more. Okay, so basically we would do gross. Let's do gross, or let's just call it aggregated margins. Okay, and then we'll say as, and then we'll just, so basically we would put them in bracket, and then we'll say from our margins, of course. Okay, and then in this case we want to aggregate at the other level, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna put this right here, and then we're gonna have sum here, and then we're gonna say sum this gross margin. Okay, because we couldn't have multiple item in the same order, right? So then we'll say so do a sum, and then here we're gonna call this total, right? Total gross margin. Okay, and because we're adding sum, which is an aggregated value, we're just going to do group by 1. Okay, or we can actually be explicit and say group by this guy. All right, and then we'll change the name of our CTE to this particular new CTE, and then let's run that. Okay, so it's telling us, oh yeah, we're not supposed to put out the year because we didn't need to join here. So let's run that. Awesome, guys. Awesome, guys. So we are almost done. Okay, we are almost done. Okay, so the last part of this solution is now that let's tie things together, right? Let's bring everything together. Okay, so now the first thing we want to do is that we first of all going to pull from our order 2024. Okay, and we want to pull the year first. Okay, and then we'll pull the month, and then we'll pull the month name. Okay, all right, and then we'll then start doing our sum. So we're first of all going to aggregate here. So because we are getting at the month level, right? So we need to perform another aggregation because this is at the order level. Now we need it to be at the month level. So we're gonna do another aggregation, and then we'll call it the same name. That's okay. And then we also need to do a count of the orders, right? So we're gonna do another count. Just before we do that, we need to join back to this this one, right? Aggregate margin, because that's how you can be able to detect this gross margin. Okay, we haven't joined before, so I have to copy that. Let me copy this guy, okay, and drop it right here. Okay, and then we can call this AM. Okay, and then we just use O dots. That's gonna be our sales order ID. All right, and then we'll say on, and then we'll say equals to, and then we'll say am dot the same thing, right? And then this is going to be referenced there, but we don't need to be explicit. But yeah, because we are counting the sales orders, we just have to be explicit here. So here we'll say O dot sales order ID. We don't need to do distinct because we know at the order level is unique already. So we now say this is going to be our total orders, okay, and then that's our total order. Okay, all right guys, we are getting there. All right, and then we're gonna do another sum of all of our on time late orders. So let's quickly do that sum. We can actually, we don't need to, we can actually say on time order as total on time order. I'm just going to copy this because I might have to use it for other ones as well. Okay, and then we'll just copy everything we have here and then change it for late and not shipped. Okay, so let's change this to late, and then we change this name to late. All right, and then we'll do the same thing again. Oh, we need to just paste here and then we'll say not shipped. Okay, shipped, and then we also say not shipped here. Okay, and then we have one last one that we have to do, which is the rate. But before we do that, let's run these and make sure that it's working quite well. Okay, goodbye 1, 2, and 3, which is year, month, and month name. Let's run that. Okay, oh, we need to do I think I deleted something here. Okay, that's okay. So we just do from, it's going to be our order 2024 as O, and I think that's it. Oh, inner join, yeah. Okay, inner join. Beautiful guys, beautiful guys. So we are almost there, we are almost there. Okay, we just need one more to go, and then here we want to do on time orders. So we're gonna do on time orders. Okay, all right, divided by count of orders. Okay, so we do all the counts as we call this on time rate. Okay, all right, now we need to let's run this first, and you can see it's working quite well, but we need to fail proof this guy, because what if it's 0? Then we're gonna have errors here if we're thinking of automation, right? To add all of this to a workflow and make sure it's work without any errors. So we need to add what we call null if here, right? And say if by any chance this is 0, right? You know, null it. Okay, if it's 0, then make it sure it's null. Basically it's going to check, is this 0, and then that's what we specify. If it's 0, null it, make sure it's null, and that will satisfy the requirement. All right guys, that's the solution right there, right? So you can see we've met all the requirements, and we had to go through so many calculations for us to get that done. But guys, this is how you should be able to solve the same problem. Let me know in the comment if you think of there are a couple of other ways we could have done this for sure, but if you have any ideas, question, put it in the comment. And at this point I want to say thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next session.